Welcome. Thank you for joining us at Empowering Creatives to Live Their Dreams. I'm Jessica Osrak. Today we have the CEO of Lead Hub, a marketing agency that helps home service companies acquire, convert, and maximize leads. Let's welcome Aaron Waters. Welcome, Aaron.
Hey there, how are you?
So I'm interested to know, Aaron, you started in digital marketing back in 2006 while still in college. So what drew you to the industry and what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in those early days?
Yeah, great question. So I was blessed with a cousin that owned a web hosting company here in small town New Braunfels, Texas, and ended up working for him. And really just initially just a lot of the techie stuff, web hosting maintenance and domain name transfers, which was wild. And we just saw extra revenue possibilities with the SEO side and web development. And so for me, being a communication studies, major and business minor, I saw immediately a way for us to increase what we were doing and just add more value. And so the marketing side of it, what was really cool for me was we were working with a lot of smaller businesses in the area,
Mhm.
and I really got to learn some crazy things about like a small privately held recycling company and go to their business and see how it operates and then tell that story on the website. And so I really got to get fast tracked into how business works, while I was in college.
Great. Wonderful. That's a wonderful start. So at Monster Web, you
Yeah.
took the initiative to create new services like SEO and Google Ads management. So what motivated you to expand the company's offerings and how did you learn to sell those services effectively?
Yeah, we saw the opportunity and typically, being a one-stop shop and just doing one service is great, but you really have to broaden your reach. And we weren't doing a ton of marketing for ourselves at the time. So it's all about relationships. And when you have a great relationship and build that, then they start asking you, find the opportunities of, yeah, well, we built your website. Wouldn't you like for it to be updated regularly? Apparently, that's a good thing. And wouldn't you like more business from it? That's why you hired us in the first place. And so we saw a huge opportunity there. Being in a small town, uh, pricing accordingly was kind of tough. So we did a lot of $300 or $100 a month SEO packages where really all we had time to do was build reports. And so it transitioned into that to really then diving in and getting results on Google Ads and just seeing those opportunities. But for us, like storytelling comes out in a lot of different ways. And at Monster Web, we were looking at finding that local story, working with the local radio station for publications, looking for local link building. And then from there, it really transitioned into the Lead Hub stuff in 2011, which I went from managing 30 SEO accounts for 100 or $300 a month to having two clients that paid 4,000 a month and realized, okay, look at how much more we can do and look at how farther we can take a brand. And yeah, selling it and everything. I always tell our team, a great relationship can overcome bad results. And so, if we have that, I call it a blow up hole, especially in the trades. If you have a February that doesn't do very well for a client, if you've got a great relationship and build a better strategy, we know we can overcome one bad month. But if you have a bad relationship, that bad month could end up in a lost client.
Mm, right. So, what are some tips that you have to build good relationships with your clients?
Yeah. I mean, key is touch points. We run our business off of EOS, and that's the entrepreneurial operating system. So I personally am not a social butterfly. So I have a scorecard metric for myself of 3 client touches a week. And so just from that perspective, trying to help my account executives and just reaching out and not talking business, just
Mm,
trying to see how are you doing. One of the other things for us is we've leveraged where our account executives don't sell. They are there to do the work. They don't talk invoicing. We do our best to where it's really a relationship about getting them results, not
mm,
necessarily about, hey, by the way, you owe us for this, and then do you want to have our monthly meeting? That weird
mhm.
relationship, which yes, we have to get paid for what we do, and we love that. We also want to make sure they feel safe in picking up the phone because they got bills to pay. We don't want to be just a debt collector or anything like that. So prioritizing our communications with what is important to the client, I think has been really huge for our success.
Okay. So using EOS is key.
Yeah.
And then also, you mentioned it's important to have it separate as far as someone who collects the bills and someone who builds the relationship
Yeah, and not always talking shop. Like
and
their
not always
business as an
talking shop.
entrepreneur is key. However, I mean, what do I talk about more than anything? Probably my daughter and my wife. Like
Mhm.
I love our business. I love what we do here. But, I just had a conversation with a client that we talked about their ad strategy for a little bit, but then we started going into Whataburger, talking about his kids and what they're doing on the rugby team and things along those lines. And um, it's one of those deals people want to work with people they like. And so trying to also hire account executives that are likable is a big key. So finding people that are likable that you want to work with that can get the work done. Those two things are actually not at odds. You can find people that have both of those things.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. That's great. Do you use EOS when hiring people? Does it help you with that as well?
Yeah, so we use EOS for the planning and everything.
Mhm.
With the personality assessment, we use this culture index
Okay.
for so before we even talk to people, we make sure that they have the culture index in the onboarding process. And so I've actually got a new hire that I'm interviewing or talking to him this afternoon in day one. And what I do in the process on day one is I review his culture index, then I review his supervisors and mine, and I explain, okay, this is how you're wired, this is how your supervisor's wired, this is how I'm wired. And so if you want to be successful here, here's how you communicate. I'm a detail-oriented person. Don't send me a Slack and say, hey, you got 5 minutes.
Mm.
No, give me info about what do you need to talk about, and I will gladly make time for you.
Mm. When did you implement that particular part of your process?
4 years ago, 5 years ago. Yeah, I'm in a group called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and one of my forum mates sold and coached on Culture Index. It's a variation of DISC or there's another one. But yeah, anyway, so he talked about it. He did it for free for us, and we realized, wow, just how predictable I am. And so when you can predict how people are going to operate, you can understand how to communicate better with them.
Have you seen a performance improvement in your team?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even at the leadership team level, it's more important. And like the little things of I've got two people at the leadership team level that they love the gift of the gab, they love to talk. And I, as much as I love it, I want to make sure it's compartmentalized and focused. So instead of saying somebody, telling somebody, hey, you're really wearing me out, you're talking too much, we can say something that's, hey, your high B's showing, or do something
Mm.
that little like, brings it back down to, I'm not trying to be rude, but let's just be real with who we are. And for me, it's the same thing. They tell me, "Hey, Aaron, your no is showing too much. Can you work with us on this? Can you think outside of the box with us and be creative?" And so, understanding that though, I think it shows how much you can respect your peers. And if I go to a peer who loves to talk face to face and I just want to have a text messaging conversation, that's not really the best way to love on them. And I think just meeting them with where they're at and knowing how they really receive the communications has been really key for us.
Yeah, and I could imagine that really understanding people on paper, it makes it a less personal if someone responds in a certain way, because now we see that, for example, you respond in a certain way, and so it's nothing personal, it's just the way you are.
Yeah, that's key. And like we've got some people, it measures, logic and emotion. I kind of say it's you're either Spock on one end or you're Captain Kirk from Star Trek. And it also helps when you see somebody that's more on that Spock spectrum that's not as warm communicating wise or communicationally. Like that doesn't mean they don't like you. Don't take it personally.
Right.
They just operate in a different way. And I think we as people love being offended by things or reading into situations and understanding how the team is wired. I think it reduces that to a certain degree. I think Brene Brown said the story I'm telling myself is X, Y, or Z, and we tell ourselves stories all the time.
Yeah, it's true. Absolutely. That's very true. So let's dive into when you joined Lead Hub. Now,
Mhm.
you mentioned 2011. Is that
Mhm.
accurate? I have
Yeah,
two.
yeah. So 2011, my partner founded it, and it was really
Okay,
him and I think a copywriter, and then I came in right at the beginning of 2012. So
got it.
we founded in 2011. I was basically working on it at the end of 2011, but yeah. And he built it out of his HVAC company in 2007. He started an HVAC company here in San Antonio.
Mhm.
Started doing the SEO and stuff for himself at the end of 2011, and then decided he needed somebody that understood the other side of it, more of the SEO side, the website development, and Google Ads, and that's where we really combined.
Okay, that's where you shine.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. So, when you joined, you worked inside an HVAC office for 3 years. And so,
hmm
how did that hands-on experience shape your understanding of business operations and customer service?
Yeah, I think, this is a story I probably need to shush up if I could use that term, but um, part of my why statement of why we work with the trades and why I come hungry every day
Mhm.
was within the first month, one of those large agencies that did Google Ads for a bunch of different businesses. This dude walked up or pulled up in his Porsche, walked through the staff in the parking lot wearing his suit, didn't say a word to the staff and the guys that were removing HVAC units off the trucks and loading and unloading, didn't say a word, just walked straight by him. Came in, asked us for a check for the Google Ads. Then, when we sat down and looked at Google Ads, after questioning, realized not only were they managing ours, they're managing the six competitors that were there because he was telling us it's okay to be number seven. And we
Mm,
fired him on the way out. And the goal there, the mission there for me personally was I'm not here just to collect a check. Like, there are guys out there loading and unloading HVAC units that we need to keep them busy.
mhm,
And we need to understand that they're people that have a network, that have a family. And if we don't perform on our end, then the business owner can't afford to have them staffed and keep them busy running jobs. And so that moment for me was I understand my why. My why is not only to make the entrepreneur or the business owner happy, it's to make sure that their techs are getting opportunities in the home.
mm. I love that. That's great. Can you just describe a little bit how the whole HVAC system and then Hub Leads kind of merged?
Yeah, we had three suites basically, and two of the suites were the HVAC business, and then one of the suites was us. And so, from our standpoint, we were really working on two to three other HVAC companies at the same time. And
Mhm,
so, what it really did though was it helped us understand Google Ads tactics, SEO tactics, website development, and really replicate our processes. And early on, we did try to do stuff like insurance companies or employment groups or PEOs. I've probably had three different PEOs in 2012 that we worked with, and teaching a team as we grew those different tactics and trying to come up with unique narratives and USPs for those brands. It was just a lot easier to stay within the trades and replicate and duplicate that. And so for us, it was understanding if it's not busy over there, if the phone isn't ringing over there, we've got to jump to kind of
mm,
see what levers can we pull to get the phone ringing and keep them busy. What we also really learned though, just as important from a marketing side of bringing in the calls is the value of a lead. And I think this is where a lot of agencies that are similar to us have their hands off, but we get into our clients' CRMs. And so if our clients aren't answering the phone properly, if they're not getting back to leads, we
mhm,
present that data in our meetings with our clients and we let them know like you're paying $200 a lead and you're not answering the phone or you're not calling these leads back from Google local services. And so I think we were a little bit more invested from day one because I saw the impact on if they were doing everything right in the call center or not. We saw the impact on the rest of the team. We saw their revenue. And so we're a Service Titan partner. That's one of the big CRMs in the trades. And we require that of all our clients because we want to marry marketing and operations.
That's great. It's a very unique model. Is this something that you came up with the founder, or how did this model
Came
relate?
up organically, yeah. I mean, it was everything that we lived and breathed, and it was pretty simple to understand. If we need HVAC clients, okay, we know where our local HVAC company is going. We know the vendors they use. We know who they trust. We know if Trane is better than Amana or whatever. Don't hate me, Amana, just mentioning things. But we get to understand that, and then we build relationships off of those aspects. And so we don't want to just rip off and duplicate and do the same thing over and over again, but it does streamline our workforce. And I think with the creative side, it's we've had the struggles over the years of how many blogs can you write about an AC system with making a dripping water sound. And so trying to find a unique creative twist is always interesting for our team.
Yeah, I could imagine. So you're passionate about coaching and training,
Mhm.
which maybe you got from coaching middle school basketball.
Mhm.
Um, so how do you foster growth within your team at Lead Hub while also balancing business objectives?
Yeah, that's difficult. Honestly, I've hired people around me that are more relationally driven and are just wired differently. I found personally, I've got my office a little bit separated from the team, and if I bury myself over here, I feel really demotivated, and I feel like I'm orphaned from the team. And so just before this call, I brought in an account executive to walk her through something I was looking at with her account. And so finding those moments to create that relationship is something that's key to me. It's something that I know that I need to keep going. But at the same time, respecting the relationship with their supervisor and making sure that we're bringing them back in is key. So one thing that we're doing right now, it's called Dream Leader Program. It's based off of the Dream Manager philosophy.
Mhm.
And we meet monthly as a team. We talk about, what does each employee really have that's a dream that's outside of business? What things do they want to accomplish in their life? If you ask somebody to write 100 different goals they have or dreams they have for their life, you
Mhm.
better believe buying a Spurs tickets for a business is a lot more achievable than maybe an employee that never would have thought of that. And
Mhm.
so we find moments. We sent one of our veterans, longtime WordPress developer here, big Baltimore Ravens fan, sent him and his wife on Christmas Day to the Texans game. And
Mhm.
there are areas there where, yeah, we can reward as a business that maybe they would never spend on themselves. And we've got a guy that does frisbee golf, been with us for 8 years, bought him a brand new backpack and some clubs and stuff. And so just finding those unique opportunities and people that are motivated to be gift givers. I am not a gift giver. I'm an acts of service kind of guy, but I appreciate gift giving, and I love having people that are wired to do that around me.
That is so cool. So, in addition to the creative and marketing recruitment at Elysian, I'm a certified dream builder coach
Oh,
and
really?
mastery consultant. And so, that is one of the tools that we can bring to organizations is to help take the employees through a process where they can uncover dreams, whether it's in health and well-being, love and relationships, time and money freedom, vocation, how we give our gifts to the world. And it's so interesting that you are able to use that as a positive reward to incentivize your employees. Because a lot of people say, why do I want to support my employee outside of the workplace? If it doesn't relate directly to work, then why would I do that? So I would love to hear from you why this is something. I mean, clearly you gave a great example of them going to
Mhm.
the game, but what is really the driving force behind investing and understanding your team's dreams?
Yeah. And I'm that guy. Yeah, I'm the one that's like, why are we taking off once a month at 4 p.m. to 5:30 to do this? Because logistically, we don't even work a full 8-hour day. Anyway, I can go spiral. Um, but but for us, it's if we wanted to just grow a business for money, we'd
Mhm.
outsource all our labor. We
Mm,
have 31 team members here in San Antonio. We have everybody local because we want to build relationships here locally. We're not in it just to flip the business and go. But I think what you find is you work harder as an owner and the team works harder if they understand that we're in it for more than just a paycheck and we're not in it just for the clients as well. We want to focus on our team. And what I would encourage, and I'm sure you encourage, and it's awesome to hear that you do that as an owner, sometimes we need it just as much as the team. And so, for example, one of the relationships that I wrote down and we had a big dust up the first time we did it because I had some partners that weren't as engaged or they were sitting away from the staff as we were doing it because they were busy. And so we talked it out of like, look, we want to be in it with the team. And one of the first things I wrote of a relationship I wanted to improve was my little brother. And we're good, but he was in Houston and he's got two little kiddos. And sure enough, over 6 months, he ended up moving back here to San Antonio, and now I get to see his kiddos every single week. And so that was something that you can't hit a goal or you can't really put effort towards achieving something unless you really write it out and put a name on it. And so, yeah, I can say it's all great for the team. They feel like I'm investing in them. That's good. But I'm also investing in myself by taking part in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is important. And that was actually why I became certified and I take my team through it, is because I've been doing it for the past 2+ years. And I was like, okay, that's great that I'm investing in my mindset and creating a vision for my dreams, but I don't want to be lugging behind a ship of employees. I want us to all get in the ship together and row together with these wonderful tools. So that's when I started taking my team through it. And then I thought that other teams could benefit from it as well. So I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you. Oh, good.
And we don't know, we're not always aware of what our team what they want. Oftentimes, and I don't think I'm an intimidating person, but apparently, if I slack somebody and tell them, "Hey, can you talk for a second?" they think they're getting fired. That's not the culture we have here, and so it confuses me. But I think also just we've found opportunities for team members that wanted to do more creative design, but they're an ad buyer. And then it allows us to find opportunities of, well, shoot, this client that they're buying ads for also needs creative for an Instagram ad. Let's just have them do it. And we've got a guy here internally that wasn't asked to do a couple things and presented some new creative. Like, okay, yeah, let's make this a core function because you're great at this. And so I think there are also some opportunities that you can bring value back to your business when you start having open dialogue.
Yeah, I love that. Really, that's great. And it helps to retain the employees. Their performance goes up because they have better energy. They're not just pushing those longings and discontent down. So that's huge. Bravo. Good job.
Yeah, awesome.
So your work revolves around optimizing the customer journey for home service professionals. So what common mistakes do you see businesses making in their marketing and how can they fix them?
Yeah. I mean, one, valuing the lead and then bringing that value and owning it themselves. What I find, especially in the trades right now, there's so much churn from not just a marketing agency side, but with private equity buying a bunch of these brands. There's a lot of, well, the lead is the marketing agency or the advertising agency's fault or the CSR. But what we oftentimes find is our clients, we focus on Service Titan or House Call Pro of making sure that we're re-engaging with customers because you don't want to pay for that lead twice. And when we do onboarding, we look at their CRM, and what we oftentimes find is this customer came for them 5 different times over 10 years in 5 different methods, or they used Google 5 different times and they paid the cost per click 5 different times. And so understanding that, okay, are we putting stickers on equipment so that we don't have to pay for this lead again? And so if they go to their water heater and it's broken and we've got a unique phone number for that campaign, we could
Mhm.
see that's one method of re-engagement. Or are we logging equipment age so that if a HVAC unit's at its 4 years after install, that we're reaching out, not just with an email, but with 3 emails and a text message and letting them know that we're doing this to make sure that you don't call us when it breaks down. And I think it's the re-engagement strategies and just making sure that our clients aren't paying for that lead over and over again is a common misstep when we're doing onboarding, but also something we can optimize. And then storytelling. I think that as a creative, when somebody converts off of a web form, are they met with a video from the owner telling them what the expectations are and what happens next? And then are they getting another video in the drip sequence saying, hey, we've got a technician coming to your home. Here's what to expect. If they don't do this, here's my private email. Email me. Kind of those things of reassuring that process. And I think a lot of marketing agencies, like I mentioned, we just it's easy to send reports and say your impression share went up this month. Congratulations. But we want to look at revenue. We want to look at lift for a brand, or else we're going to get cut.
So you mentioned the videos. Would you say that that's the best way to engage with a lead and well, lead, but also a client, right? For re-engagement outside of a phone call? Is there
Yeah.
anything else? I mean, of course, I see the occasional, chairman or CEO letter that's heartfelt. How does
Yeah.
that compare to these three different ideas of engaging?
Unfortunately, there's so much noise and you got to break through in multiple different areas. And so, just as much as I would love to say the videos are watched, pairing that with a text message, pairing that with an email, you're going to find a lot of users will read their text messages and they will never read their emails or vice versa. And
Mhm.
so, I think video is the best way for the front end of a sale so that they can understand who they're working with. When it
Mhm.
comes back on the back end, you don't have to re-engage too much with the video creative. You could do more of the written format because they already know what they got. They've already been a customer before. But video on the front end for me is really important. Another trend right now is the AI CSRs, call center representatives, which is not CSR, customer service representative, but you get it. But there's this big push now to turn AI voice bots into the first touch. And I think that is the worst way we could operate. And it does save a lot of time, but how many times have you talked to an AI bot and you're like, no, representative, representative, represent, and so it's increasing as far as the effectiveness is getting better. But I still think there's a human connection. Maybe that's what I want. I've talked about this in our podcast before, but like I want the human connection to be desirable. Like I want consumers to want to talk to a real human. And I
Mhm.
hope that that's where we go and where we end up. But the reality is workforce efficiency is what a lot of people are looking for. And I don't even know if I answered your question.
You know what? I like the direction we're going. So, as far as the AI and the bot, so I've I remember a couple of times I've gotten those calls, and I'm like, this is not a person. Click.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to hang up on those bots. And AI, there's so many different ways you can use AI driven processy savers, time savers. And so I think it's really about making the person more efficient, not replacing the person. So
Mm.
still maintaining that human connection because we're humans. And so that emotional part, I mean, you talked about the the different Star Trek characters, right?
Mhm.
Emotional, the non-emotional. And so
Yeah.
even Spock, he has emotions. He found that out, right?
Mhm.
So we all have emotions,
Yeah.
and that's not going to be taken away.
Yeah. I hope not. And that's where, even for us, like I love the concept of in the onboarding process, that's when we can throw an AI bot in there and let's ask the clarifying questions. But it takes three meetings with a person with our discovery process to then get a sale. And so after that, we can start talking about onboarding, but you need to warm them up and let them know, hey, I'm going to send you to our automated onboarding process. And
Mhm.
so we're big on the efficiency side. I build a lot of custom GPTs and our team has a sticky note on their monitor that says, how could I do this better and faster using AI?
Mm. Okay, so it's a mantra in your organization. Interesting. Love that. So how many different AI tools have you incorporated? Do you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, we also love to chase the shiny object, and our software subscriptions are kind of all over the
Yeah.
place. And so it's been fun. We use Opus Clip for creating long form podcasts, turning them into or long form videos, turning them into shorts.
Yeah.
I created a custom GPT for any long form content. I upload the transcript from our podcasts or any kind of video, and it spits out, it goes through a balancing conversation, but it spits out five potential titles. And then I make it stop and ask for clarification. Then we say, okay, this is the one we want. Then it'll send chapters. We'll say, this is the one we want. And so I have a lot of human supervision over that.
Mhm.
We have automated review responses on Google Business Profiles using the customer's DNA. So we do an onboarding for that. We do automated posts on different, I'm not going to specifically label them, but different local optimization properties because I don't think we're supposed to be using automated bots for that. But we do that. And then I've built some GPTs internally for training, like Google Local Services is a big thing for our clients. And so I've built my takes paired with the knowledge base from Google. And if an account executive has some questions and their specialty isn't GLS, talk to the bot. Like just talk it out, and it's going to come up with a couple different ideas of maybe things you're missing.
Interesting. That's great. So that's a lot of examples, and that's wonderful. And it's working well for you.
Yeah, yeah, I believe it is.
That's good. That's wonderful. So the digital marketing landscape is constantly evolving, as
Uh-huh.
we both know. And how do you stay ahead of the trends and ensure LeadHub continues to provide value to clients?
Yeah, I mean, again, goes back to relationship and our clients, especially in the trades, they're getting fed so many new ideas or, hey, my competitor down the road did this and now this is where they're at. So why aren't you guys doing this?
Mm.
So having relationships where we can get the opportunity to test and to pitch things, that's number one for us. And then diving back into our clients' databases and understanding where they're winning and where they're losing. And so we also encourage our team. We've got an industry news channel in our Slack. And so internally, we encourage our team to talk about the content that they're digesting so that the staff can all be on par with it. And so we have a Wednesday morning all staff huddle. We call it Hub Grub. And we talk about any news going on. Each team leads gets an opportunity to say, this is what's happening in my department. This might be an impact to you guys, development team, just so you know. Google's doing this or that. And so keeping an open dialogue within our company, especially on Slack, and sharing a lot of those articles helps us stay ahead. And then from a leadership standpoint, staying plugged in with the different CRMs or the different properties, like being a premier partner with Google, however people feel about that, staying in tune with our representatives there, we get a little bit more insight than others.
Okay, these are wonderful suggestions. So I understand you've called yourself a jack of all trades rather
Mhm.
than a guru. So how has this mindset helped you in your career, and what do you think specialists can learn from it?
Yeah, I think it all depends on business size and where you're at. I think Jack of all trades was great when we were growing.
Mhm.
I think now it's caused friction at times of, okay, well, I jump in and start to work on different accounts. But I think once you get to a certain size, specialists can really help be, from a thought leadership, drive the company forward. And so we now have people that are no longer doing five different jobs, but we have someone that's our SEO expert and we have somebody that's our Google Ads expert. And so I think continuing to be the thought leader is key, but a lot of thought leaders and specialists can get high on our own supply. And so being open to questioning and testing if that strategy is still working and then challenging yourself to see the impact. And so creating, and I use SEO pretty regularly, but increasing a brand's organic visibility is amazing. But question yourself, okay, how much new business did that bring to the customer? Did it impact the life cycle? Am I making my account executive's life easier by explaining it in an easy way to share it with the client? And so seeing the full picture, you don't have to be a specialist in Google Ads if you're an SEO expert or if you're a copywriter, but knowing the impact that your work has is really important. And I think a lot of specialists want to overvalue the impact. And I think it's good to have that balancing of like, okay, where was the output? Because putting 60 hours into project A and getting what did we get out of it, I think is really important. But then knowing how to position your work and show the value that may not be shown in the data is also important. So anyway, just like be an ally for yourself and really broadcast the work that you did,
Hmm.
because I also see, and I'm going back on it and I'll be quiet after this, but I also see a lot of, hey, I did all this work and it's up to you to get it done. But saying, okay, I have this pricing manual that I spent a lot of time on as a SEO and a copywriter. Here's how I think you should use it.
Mm.
Uh, and just making sure that we're actually using it and talking about it because we find that a lot just because it's not getting play. And I'm speaking specifically about a personal example here, but like we had a really big research project that was developed and it wasn't really seen because it wasn't communicated as well as we probably should have. So now that we know about it, we know what went on. Now we know how to attack it as a marketing company. And so it wasn't that it wasn't valued. It's just that we didn't communicate it efficiently initially. But
Okay. So it's
yeah.
about having these tools that can be beneficial. Your team put a lot of effort into it and then it's not being utilized. So it's not bringing value essentially.
Yeah, and just being an ally for yourself or your peers and saying, here's why I think it's valuable, here's where we should use it. And so instead of putting an asset on the website, let's turn it into social content. Let's turn it into outbound strategies. And I think we do a lot of work as specialists. You do a lot of work because it's the right thing to do tactically or because it's assigned to you. But then
Mm.
promoting it after the fact and being proud of it. If you've got a good culture, we want to be proud of our team's work. We want to be proud of what each other is doing. And so it's just also being in tune.
Yeah. Sharing your vision, communicating it, right? Getting it from your head to your mouth out to other people so that they can
Absolutely.
essentially buy into that vision and then help support it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Good, wonderful. So, how does living your dream look like for you today? And what advice would you give creatives trying to build a career they're truly passionate about?
Yeah. I think first it's scribing, writing down what your dream is. It's something that I haven't done before the Dream Leader program, really. I think we find in the workforce, you can start to describe yourself and put yourself in a box. I'm the first one in, last one out. That's the way I've always positioned myself.
Mhm.
um, Going through the program and understanding that there are other values. Like I'd love to take my daughter to school one day a week. I'd love to be home before 5:30 on a Friday to do X, Y, or Z. I want to play more golf with my dad. Anyway, those kinds of things.
Ah, those are great examples.
If you don't put those into writing, you're not going to be able to portray that vision, and you can't ever overcome the limitations you put on yourself. And so, understanding that, and then identifying what's most important to if you have a supervisor or whatever's going on in your business, then being able to communicate the things that you're doing that are providing value that may supersede taking half days on a Friday or having that conversation. But a lot of times, what I think business leaders or supervisors get is this is my dream. What are you going to do with it? And
Mm,
it's really difficult from a supervisor relationship of, okay, so now it's my job to make your dream come true.
mm,
No, here's my dream. I'd love to take off on Fridays one day, every other Friday. Here's what I've been doing. Here's what I'd love to do more of to help make it easier on the business. Here's how things aren't going to get dropped. Do you think this is possible? Or coming up with options. And so, depending on where you're at as a creative, my wife works for a really large fast food business at corporate. She's got more red tape than I do, And so I'm like, yeah, just go do that thing. Write that press release. Well, we've got a team. And so, anyway, understand what your goals are and your vision are, write it out for yourself to really know that that's what you want, and then start to position it. But make sure that it's not just on your supervisor or even on your clients if you're an entrepreneur to get that vision done. It's on you to present options.
mhm. Wonderful. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
I mean, just with the AI revolution and everything, don't be overwhelmed. Challenge yourself. Build, whether it's a GPT or a Perplexity, whatever AI tool you use that understands your DNA. And this may be I know a lot of people don't love to put the AI, give them all your info, but regardless, from my opinion, they're going to have it anyway. But
Mm.
build your own. I've got one of my partners here. He built his own therapy bot in GPT that he gets to, talk to him about, hey, I'm wired this way, but also challenge yourself. I mean, my 75-year-old mom makes coloring books using Chat GPT. Don't be overwhelmed or afraid of the AI revolution and impact on our industries because the only marketers or creatives that are going to become irrelevant are the ones that aren't at least using some form of AI to either challenge themselves mentally and emotionally or help automate some of the processes.
Wonderful. Well said. Well, thank you for participating in my show, Aaron. And I'd love to have you back on my show again to hear more about your experience and impact with the organization.
Awesome. Thank you again for having me. Really appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us at Empowering Creatives to Live Their Dreams. I'm Jessica Osrick. You can do it. I believe in you.